Good evening. The Ranter is back to go in yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And this time around I'm going to be doing just a pre-midterm opinion upon the midterms, really. And our state of politics, as it were. It's not going to be a long rant, I don't think, as I adjust myself, as you see. What I'm expecting is that Republicans are going to win at the midterms. Either they're going to take control of the House, or going to take control of the Senate, or even a chance of them taking control of both. And opinion on that? Well, it's kind of complicated. You pull away at the the 10,000th altitude view of all this, and you once again remember there's an ebb and flow when it comes to politics. That if a president not only has the presidency, obviously, but also has control as a party, the House and the Senate, then they are incumbent upon them to make as much accomplishments as they can and be ready to face any challenges that comes up in terms of our economy or foreign policy, etc., domestic, etc. The problem with Biden going in when winning the election is that he win with such a narrow majority in the House and a sliver majority in the Senate, is that any accomplishments that they could do is finite compared to what they were not able to do, not only because of the Republicans, even in the minority, had a strong number that challenges any vote, but at least two members of the Democratic Party who are in conservative districts and or conservative states as senators couldn't always back the Democratic play for their own sake of their own political futures. Being the only Democrat in rosy red West Virginia, for example, for Joe Manchin, it does lend credence to the opinion that they don't do much in terms of helping out with Democratic causes. So a lot of progressive measures that people were hoping for wasn't going to turn out. Now, in a number of videos that I've done since Biden won up to now, I did make a point that a lot of things that people wanted to see happen, including a lot of progressive measures and progressive policies, I had said that they weren't going to fly in this razor-thin majority, especially when you have two Democrats who easily flips over to the Republican side. I mean, Sinema just got high fives by the Republicans when they, strike down a Democratic measure, and it's like, really? You're doing that in front of people? Really? That shows a lot of you. So there's the problem going into this midterm that the Democrats in control really didn't do much. There are accomplishments that you can find on a list that has been done, and one that I can rattle off on my little head is that they actually got infrastructure done, something that has not been done in years and years and years, from Trump, from Obama on backwards, even though Trump had all those nifty infrastructure weeks, but they weren't accomplished until we got to Biden. So the ebb and flow in politics is that if the incumbent party, president, that controls the House and Senate, if they're not making any great strides and they're not making any progress in terms of the issues of the day, then they become vulnerable in the midterms. And this has happened. This is not an unusual event. This is not because of how our politics is so amped up and so belligerent, because you go back to 2010, Obama was riding high and popular as the president, yet the policies of the Democratic-controlled House and Senate at the time was so lukewarm, with the exception of Obamacare, that the majorities that they had after Bush were gone by the Tea Party and the revolution that took it back for the Republicans. Now, so what we have now is that we have a good opportunity for the Republicans to take back over the House and Senate. As they call it, the red wave. Here's the thing. From my point of view, the red wave would be a lot greater in their gains, if they get any gains. I think they are. But if they gain any gains, would be much larger and more pronounced if certain members of the Republican Party would just shut the fuck up. And that's the thing. That's the caveat to this. Is that if Republicans went out there and just went straight economy, inflation, gas prices, everything going up, if you just went that nuts and bolts, actual political yet realistic issues that affects everyone, then I think the red wave would be massive. I think it would be like demoralizing, and it would be one of those things where the Democrats would have to act like this is a rebuilding year and spend the next 2 years trying to salvage this, as the Republican Party did when Obama won the election, and they had to have like their autopsy as they figure out what went wrong. But no, enough of the people on the Republican Party who are so beholden to the rabid, conspiracy theoried, inspired, just say it, don't have to prove it bullshit that Trump began with, that this creature is moving and growing, that Republicans are beholden to that in order to maintain their control, maintain their votes and support, so that they can get in greater control in the House and Senate. So they have to do all this outlandish stuff, which you have to imagine that middle Americans, I mean conservative, good-natured, good conscience Republicans or independents or even Democrats who were going to be on board with the Republicans anyway, not out of malicious reason, not about owning the libs or hating on Biden, but because their values in being fiscally conservative, socially conservative, are aligned with the Republicans, so they would be garnering giving them their support. But they don't. But despite the support that they'd be giving them, there's a little bit of a pause when you have the Lauren Boeberts, or the Herschel Walkers, or the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or the Dr. Oz's, or Trump, or various other people who are doing stunts, who are making it more outlandish, or making it more dramatic, unnecessarily hateful, and then throwing up demonizing bullshit in terms of trans folk, obviously the other, so anything that comes about migrants or the border, they'll bring that up because, election season. And from anybody else who was out there. It was no mistake that they ran with critical race theory when they started their midterms, when they started midterm season, to bring out the demonizing fear of critical race theory. Something that is not taught in grade school, and yet they said it is, because critical race theory is a college-level study done in graduate school and law school. But somehow, grade school kids are learning it. Yeah. I mean, you hear the interviews of people who are also fearful of critical race theory. I don't want this critical race theory being done in my class. I don't want to see my children go through it. Oh, what's critical race theory? I don't know. You don't know. And so here's like the interesting part about those politicians who run against critical race theory. They can say that I'm going to fight to make sure critical race theory is not in your classroom. And then they win an election. Guess what? It's not in the classroom. I did it. You did nothing. It was never there. But the demonizing worked. The messaging worked because, and we're going to go into this, how half the reason why there's going to be a Republican winning is also due to Democrats. We'll get to that, but It is like, I made this metaphor before in other videos, where you claim you're going to be against Sharia law. You're a Midwest town. You're a politician. You're running, and your platform is that you're going to make sure Sharia law doesn't come to your community. We're going to outlaw it. That's great. You run on that. You win the election, and it goes, see, there's no Sharia law, and yet there isn't a Muslim man, woman, or child or family 100 miles from your community, and yet you're taking a victory lap over something that wasn't existing in your town to begin with. So there's that. But good, conscious people on the right side who were going to vote Republican anyway because of financial reasons, social reasons, maybe supportive of them taking down Roe v. Wade, etc. Whether you agree with, disagree with, those are all logical, reasonable, respectable reasons to be voting Republican. And if that is where you feel like you and your family will get support for you and your family, especially for the economy, that makes sense, right? But then when the clown show comes in, honking their horns, then you are standing amongst the clowns, just looking around. And just, am I really on the right side here? And you're looking around. But the problem is, on the Democratic side, that, should really emphasize the reasonableness of, basic human respect that they're trying to promote when they are trying to be on the side of everyone and every demographic as they're capable of doing so. Democrats, I don't know what it is, but they're just bad on messaging. They're bad on messaging. They're bad on sounding like, I know you hear about this complaint before, and I'm starting to get it, because I didn't really get it before. But some Democrats have this really bad habit of talking down to people who they expect to support them. And it is not the best measure to do this. I mean, it's one thing to promote, obviously, education, context, nuance, but you're trying to explain it, then you try to explain it to someone, but then you're acting like you're explaining it to children instead of adults. You don't try to relate. You want people to come up to your level as opposed to bringing the information that you have and bringing it to their level. Not even making it sound like there's a disparity in it, but making it sound like we want you to understand what we're talking about here. And your understanding brings it the knowledge that comes with it. But especially when I deal with people who are vastly intelligent, that I debate with, who has the knowledge, who has the facts, who has the figures. So you should go, logically speaking, you'd go, hey, I should be listening to this person because he knows what he's talking about. But when he's acting like an asshole about it, or he's talking down to you, or he's being smug about it, why would I want to listen to this person? This goes to even me, because I have a bit of an ego problem and can get a little snarky in my name. So I could have facts and figures, I can come with you with all this, but if I'm saying, hey, fuckface, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and here's why, you're not going to listen to me. Nor should you, because that would be bullshit that I'm doing. Regardless of if I am right, or if I have the facts on my side, and I'm coming at you, talking down to you, treating you like someone who doesn't quite understand, and just there is an irritation to that, and then people don't want to listen to that. wanting people to understand what you're talking about, wanting people to understand the concepts of being respectful for people who are different. When it comes sounding like scolding, or sounding like that you're wrong, they're less receptive. Because that's where pandering comes in, and then, trying to relate, and people who look at these situations and they go, oh, well, I'll just vulture my way in and go, you're not wrong. Oh, your fears and irrationalities, that's not wrong. Yeah, there's a book in the library that is, sexually orientationally positive towards people who are not like you. Yeah, it's a demonic book. Let's tear it away. And let's burn it. Yes, you're right. It is bad. Now vote for me, because I said you're right. The Democrats have a horrible messaging platform, program. There are things that Democrats on their platform and in their position should be something a majority of people would want to be interested in. But they let the narratives run away, and Republicans know how to run with a narrative. They know how to pick it up. They know how to get regular folk who are not political wonks, like me, like people that I know, who know how to nuancely dissect, where people are just glad-handing and pandering, and to the actual facts and figures that they're trying to put out for people to understand the situation, for people to understand the policies. Because the thing is that when you sit down and think about it, all the news sound bites, all the drama, all the left and right crap, that's to inflame the senses one way or the other. News media always does this. It is not a Fox-oriented thing, or a CNN-oriented thing, or an MSN-oriented thing. Everyone does it. If you just set out the facts and figures of the situation, and you as a responsible, logical, intelligent person are offered these things, and they ask you of your opinion of it, then you either agree that this policy is this way, or you disagree. The policy is not what I'm looking for, and I think there are flaws in it, and here are those flaws. But they don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want you really to understand. They want you to be pissed off. They want you to be outraged. They don't want you to just simply oppose something and give you a logical alternative to the thing that you're pissed off. No, they simply want you to be pissed off. When Roe v. Wade went down, in my mind, I went into the thinking of, okay, if this is how we're going to run with this, then the next stage of this is for Democrats to hold the Republicans' feet to the fire and go, okay, so then you are for family support, you are for child support, you're not going to do anything to screw with anything because of politics, you're going to help, you're going to vote for baby formula, you're going to be supportive of family planning, family medical care, making sure the mother is not on the street, that the mother and the child is not in danger, that there's going to be tax credits, there's going to be support system, that as a party of family values, you would be all over this, so that you make sure that the mother and child is taken care as much as humanly possible. And if you're not, then we can point our fingers to you and go, see, you don't give a shit. You just wanted the birth for political purposes. That's it. Because you're not offering shit. Because if you offered, that might be socialism. Which is like the argument that I keep hearing from back and forth. So I wanted the Democrats to have that responsible, rational thing. So, hey, This is the way it is. If we don't win the midterms, then we expect to hold the Republicans' feet to the fire on this. But I'm not hearing that. And that annoys me. That's not living in the realism. What people want to do is they want to keep women inflamed, women pissed off so that they would come out to vote. But the problem is, so much time has elapsed since Roe v. Wade went down. In fact, let's go further back. That since the leaked rumor of them making it go down, to them going down, to now. You had a majority of women in this country that does not want Roe v. Wade to have gone down. So, by the logic of mathematics, you would think, given that all we're trying to do is keep women pissed off on this issue, is that they're going to go and they will be the blue wave that we're not even discussing anymore. That they will make sure their votes go that way. But the problem is, so much time has passed, so many things in the economy and the popularity of our president has waned too much, and the Republicans know how to control a narrative that whatever rational, logical righteousness of your outrage, that's fading compared to what the reality is what's going on here. And Republicans are seizing on that with their messaging. And as I said, the only thing that is in my mind is really going to keep it from being this huge, massive red wave here is that their radical members of their party are not shutting the fuck up. Because remember the first 2 years of Trump, when we're going to his midterms, we were banging the drum of there being a blue wave. That there was going to be a blue wave. Oh my God, we're going to get back at Trump. It's going to be a blue wave. It's going to be awesome. I mean, hell, since day one of his presidency, since his inauguration, they had like a banner up of resisting. We were quoting Elizabeth Warren about her resisting in the Senate and how Mitch McConnell says she persisted, and that became a slogan, right? What happened during those midterms? That blue wave. It was a blue wave. If you actually call a spilled bottle of water that landed on blue paint and just trickled, it was a blue trickle. Did it lend itself over to the Democrats taking control of the House? Yes. Did it lend itself for us taking control of the Senate? Nope. Had the House. He had the purse strings, and he had the power to investigate. But that's it. Other than that, it was no resounding, victory. It was no mandate. It was none of that. It was nothing symbolic to that. Could this be the same way in reverse? How a red wave could be cresting over, and by Tuesday it just becomes a trickle? Maybe. I'm still in the camp of Republicans taking over, and depending how large it is, them taking over the House and the Senate, and depending on the numbers. And I got a point to mention about that, but I'm going to save that for a bit, so bear with me on that. But here's kind of a prediction. And I'm going to do a post midterm video, which will probably be like next week. Depending on the numbers, what's going to change? And in the numbers, with a Republican-controlled House and maybe a Republican-controlled Senate, what you have is gridlock against Biden. Now, the people who are the loudest on here in the political venues of their politicians will talk about, impeachment, we're going to investigate all this and all that. That's great. But as impeachment went with Trump, you can get an impeachment going to the House you need 2/3 of the Senate. And I do not think that the Republicans are going to get 2/3 of the Senate. They may get control of majority, but when it comes to actual impeachment, they'll have as much success as us impeaching Trump. We have it on to Trump that yeah, he's impeached. He is impeached twice. No one is more impeached than he is, we can tell you. Not convicted, but he'll have that I next to his name for the rest of his natural life and into the history books of his presidency. But beyond that, what else happens? What else changes? Now, people who are going to be voting for Republicans for the sake of the economy, if you think that voting for the Republicans is going to help end inflation, lower gas prices, lower food prices, I hate to break it to you, but chances are good that they will not want to do that. And the reason they don't want to do that is because any progress, any success that this country gets, if gas prices go down, if the inflation levels start leveling off, if prices start going down, then they would fear that that would mean a Biden victory. And they don't want that. It is the same thing as happened with Obama. With jobs where they were during the Obama era, they did not want Obama to do anything to fix the economy, to make jobs more plentiful. Look back. The American Jobs Bill. First, voted for in its entirety? Nope. Voted in pieces? Nope. Each and every point proves that the Republicans at the time was more interested in their political power than your lives. When you were looking for jobs, they didn't want you to get any because that might mean that Obama got a success, and they don't want that. How ridiculous that is. And we're going to have this again. Now, they're going to try to fast track this because they're going to be trying to impeach as much as possible. So they're going to try to eliminate Biden's last 2 years through impeachment, which admittedly what Democrats were trying to do with Trump during the House impeachments. That's great, but that didn't help us, the last 2 years of Trump, improve this country. And under Biden, when they're going to do this to Biden, that is not going to help this country. And again, if you think this is like a recent occurrence, then you need to look up history of our American political system. Because we go back and forth with this. And all the while, no matter how much we fight and how much we make these issues so monumental that all these votes matter, that each one of these votes is so consequential to this country and to your personal life, that we just stay in status quo afterwards. And sometimes people will actually pat themselves on the back that we're maintaining status quo, because if you voted that other guy in, or he maintained his post, it would go down. But thanks to me doing absolutely nothing but sitting in this chair, it's right level. It's not worse. Oh, no, it's not worse. It's not better. But being here is better than not. And that's where we seem to be right about now. If you're looking for any progress, you're not going to get it. You're not going to really get it. Any forward motion you will see, there will be an undercurrent of crap that you didn't ask for, that will either make or break any bills. Whatever they pass through the House, whatever they could pass through the Senate, if it's not something that Biden himself would support, he will veto. And once again, since we're not thinking that the Republicans will claim 2/3 of the Senate, they won't be able to override the veto. So we will be paralyzed. The only time we're going to have forward motion on anything helping this country would be that if the Democrats gained a robust House and a more robust vote count in the Senate, meaning that they win the midterms. But since that is not appearing to be the case, whatever you are looking for to happen outside of just owning the libs is not going to happen. So enjoy owning the libs and rest on those owning the lib laurels, and just forget about anything responsible, forget about anything consequential, forget about anything that improves this country or improve your life, and just settle. Settle with Nancy Pelosi no longer being the speaker. Yay, there's your victory. There's your victory. Rest on the laurels that Chuck Schumer will no longer be Senate Majority Leader. Yay, yay, go Mitch, or Rick Scott, who apparently is gunning for that job. Rest on the laurels of there being perpetual, constant investigations for no other reason other than the cameras on them, and it's revenge time, and to make Boss Trump happy. Yay, yay. Is it going to help your life in any measure other than the owning the libs part? No. No. But if you were ready to settle on that, and you're ready to settle, that's it. That's all. That's all you want. Then you're already settling on status quo. You're already settled on it being the way that it is for the next 2 years. You're okay with that. And you know what? If you are okay with that, if you don't really need the country to improve, if this is what you believe is the worth and the point of your vote, then enjoy it. Democrats need to get a better control over their messaging. They got to better be able to control to how they explain to people what the point they have. Don't let the point get run off so that things that don't even affect the American people, the Republicans just scaremonger and demonize to scare the shit out of them or piss them off enough for them to go and vote for against their own self-interest as long as they own the libs. Democrats need to figure this stuff out. And going into my final point here is going to be kind of on the Democrats, but it's actually kind of upon the American system as it is. Idealistically speaking, we are supposed to be electing the smartest, the most charismatic, the most productive, the most exceptional people that we can offer. We want to have the credentials behind the people that we are voting for, or see them like in future, like you know when they voted for John F. Kennedy as senator, future thinking that, maybe someday he could be president. Or when Barack Obama spoke at the 2004 Democratic Convention, and people were going in 2004, and they're going, oh, I could see him a couple years later becoming president. Feeling that exceptionalism, even if it's an image, that exceptionalism. But now, regardless of who it is, regardless of Democrat or Republican, the high bar, the high shelf that we are now straining to reach in our politicians is competency. It's mediocrity. We are no longer trying to elect the best and the brightest. We are going after name value. We're going after celebrity. We're going after, maybe people who said the right thing in a soundbite. But qualifications? During the Trump-Hillary Clinton presidential run, Hillary Clinton, when you look down in the numbers and look down at the professional histories, Hillary Clinton was probably a candidate with the most credentials. And that it didn't matter. No matter what she brought to the table. One being obviously the 30 years of Hillary hate that people just have on her. But the other fact is that she was just a goddamn shitty candidate. Whatever you want to say about Russiagate, or what the Russians did or what did not do, and I got into that too. And I do believe the Russians were involved in certain levels, but I think no more or less than any other election. There's been reports of Russians getting involved on social media, make social media posts, get on Facebook, get on Twitter, have like bots that says this or say that, and just spread that, spread disinformation or any of that shit, right? And of course, WikiLeaks, we can always throw that back on it being Russia adjacent. However, Russians did not do anything to voting machines. No numbers were fixed by Russians. Donald Trump, to the horror of us all who found it horrible, won fair and square. Why? Because Hillary Clinton was a shitty candidate. She allowed herself to barely step foot on non-safe grounds. She was given answers to debate questions. She never left her comfort zone. And she won the popular vote because the populous areas were supportive of Democrats. East Coast, West Coast, those few little sections in the middle. The rest of the middle, that maybe not be populous, but they have electoral college votes, they didn't see her. They didn't see an alternative to Trump. There was a vacuum there. A vacuum that was allowed to be filled by demonizing, hate, and just whatever assumptions that was made, because the person did not come and step up and be brave. Because it's about being brave at times when you're trying to run for any particular office. Because if you can't take a challenge, what are you doing? These can't be handed to you, because maybe Hillary assumed it was going to be handed to her, like people thought it was handed to George W. Bush in the 2000 election. And we got to admit to ourselves that it was not handed to Trump. Trump started his election bid at 1%. I think it was a comedy of errors by his Republican opponents who saw that he was growing a fan base, and instead of trying to challenge him and knock him down, which I believe true Republicans wanted them to do, because they wanted to see strength, they nonetheless saw these candidates hug Trump because they feared that when Trump would eventually go down, which they thought it would happen, they could take that voting bloc away so long as they pretend to be Trump's best friend. But that didn't happen. Since they vacillated, did not show strength, then Republicans who were frustrated at that, because you know what? Fuck that. I'll support Trump, because at least he's showing that he has balls. And if they can't handle Trump, I believe, no matter all her negatives, they would not be able to handle Hillary. But, again, Hillary's own fallacies screwed her over. It was her election to lose, and she lost it. She lost it, and she lost a number of states that you thought were strongholds for Democrats. Then there's that. But, like I said, Democratic messaging, and the Democrats don't seem to understand that they should reflect. The Republicans knew how to reflect when they had their rebuilding year after Obama. What to say, what to do, what actions to be taken. Republicans were smart in order to go after state houses, quietly, taking local politics, taking control of that. While Democrats were too busy worrying about national elections. But we're no longer striving for the exceptional. We're striving for the barely competent and barely mediocre. And for both sides, left, right, doesn't matter. Days gone by, weeks, months, years gone by, we would expected our candidates who wanted to hold high office to know what they're talking about. When a question comes to them about something about the intricacies of our economy, the domestic measures of our policies, foreign policy, that they would be on the ball, or at least our handlers will be around them, be on the ball to have competent and thought-provoking answers. And, there were pluses and minuses to Fetterman in Pennsylvania. God bless him for surviving a stroke. And regardless of the politics, I hope he makes his recovery is full. He's got some issues that never really affected in Pennsylvania politics. It's been brought up. And it's things that he really should address, and he really needs to respond and really needs to apologize for. Including, holding a guy up by a gun and not apologizing for that. His opposition, a carpetbagger celebrity who thinks Pennsylvania is on the Atlantic coast, that doesn't live in Pennsylvania, that doesn't understand Pennsylvania at all, has a good chance of winning. And that's mediocrity. That is trying to reach for the competency to even to not know the state enough, even though you're running in that state that you don't even live in. You gotta try. Remember when Hillary, ran for Senate in New York, and people bashed her for being a carpetbagger? She's not from New York. How dare she? Where are those people when it's Dr. Oz? I can tell you, it's because of politics. Just because it wasn't acceptable for her doesn't mean it's unacceptable for anyone that has an R next to their names, because it's politics, not realism, not real life, politics. And once again, my final point that seems to be drifting away from me, sorry. In the end, midterms are going to come and go. Whatever melodramatic issues that are like inflaming you to get out there and vote, I'm not telling you not to vote. I'm not telling you your vote doesn't mean anything, because that's totally not true. Regardless of it going to a Republican, regardless of going to a Democrat, or an independent, or Mickey Mouse, or whoever you want to write in, vote. If that is your will to do so. But if you're looking to cause and inspire and bring about change, to improvement, to our economy, to our social policies, domestic policies, foreign policies, fiscal policies, then the only way to really secure that would be voting Democrat. Because, and it's not because of the bias of being Democrat or bias against Republicans. It is the basic fact that when Republicans take over, in however numbers they're going to do so, they're going to do nothing. They're not going to help you at all. Why? Because Biden's president. So if anything that improves in this economy, he might be in a position to rightfully take credit for when it's his stroke of his pen. And they don't want that to happen. At your expense, they don't want it to happen. So they're going to waste your time on, waving their hands on investigations of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Dr. Fauci, Christopher Wray, or Merrick Garland. That will be the news. That will be the front page. And all the while, prices are going up. Gas is going up. And they'll blame Biden for it. Oh, they'll absolutely blame Biden for it. They'll tell you to blame Biden while they do nothing. While they will have control of Congress, which means they'll have control of the purse strings. If they make it, they'll have control of the Senate, which means they'll have the control of the agenda and the calendar of what policies that they want to push. They will do nothing to help you. Because they don't want any success to go to Biden for the next 2 years. So, again, if you just want to own the libs, that's all you're going to get. Enjoy it. Democrats, if the numbers are a lot greater for the Republicans, and you have a greater control, reflect as to why. Have our time of, aw shucks, and have our time of depression, and, feeling bad for the situation of being owned, but then reflect as to why that happened. Because I'm telling you, regular folk who are Republicans, are not there for the tinfoil conspiracy bullshit theory crap. They're there for real issues. We could have had the narrative of pointing to the sideshow and saying the whole party is the sideshow. By their very actions on news shows and their sound bites and their rallies, you think it was. But we didn't offer an alternative to satisfy. And again, in one last little retrospective, because I'm going long here, sorry. There's a time and place for us to see real positive change when it comes to social issues, when it comes to basic human respect for straight men and women, the LGBTQ community. for various people with different skin pigmentations. The problem is, the time is not when we have a razor-thin majority in the Senate and just a barely majority in the House. We push too far left, and the country, who are not political wonks, who are regular folk, even regular Democrats, they see all this stuff, and you see the Republican narrative demonizing this stuff, and he says, I don't want this shit. Then they go and vote Republican. One of the greatest teachers that you get from experience is the experience of loss. Despair for a moment, but learn from it. If you're unable to learn about it and you just feel like you can't leave your little pit, then they will rule. But again, as I said on the outset, politics is ebb and flow. I believe the Democrats in power overreached because they did not have a robust Senate and they didn't have a robust House that they can get things passed the way that we would want them to get it passed. They overreached with what limits they had. They showed that they were fractured between the progressive and establishment wing. They showed that President Biden could not control cannot control, even from a bully pulpit, the Democratic Party. That the American genius of compromise wasn't even working within the Democratic Party because of Manchin and Sinema torpedoing many issues. And that is weakness. And the Republicans took the narrative, owned it, trademarked it, demonized who they needed to demonize. So there's a lot of people who are very vulnerable, who are different, who are considered the other, that are now living kind of in danger. That's not melodramatic. That's realistic. Because the more the rhetoric becomes something that everybody in the crowd nods their heads to, then out of 100 people, there will be that one that will take the rhetoric, take the hate, take the fear, and find themselves some victims so that they can make America great again. We have seen it done. We have seen it done no less than a week ago. We've seen it done on January 6th. We have seen it done in El Paso. We have seen it done from various violent acts that leads to death, down to acts of throwing a car at protesters, all the way down to slugging somebody at a rally. Or my favorite, not my favorite, but my long-standing memory of people who felt so filled with pride and patriotism, as Donald Trump said, beat the shit out of a homeless man and urinated on him because they called him foreign, that he was illegal. There are people out there that these people are demonizing, that regular folk are nodding their heads to. So when you spike the football and you high-five each other, maybe get some basic human respect. Try to feel some consciousness as to what will happen or what may happen to those around you that you are around in this new atmosphere. Alright, that is a pre-midterm rant. Post-midterm rant will come sometime after the midterms. See you later, guys. Ranter rants, etc., etc. burst to rant because of you people.